What's good? For those who know, for those who do not know, I studied political science, psychology, and English in college at Kent State University, which means that I am a bona fide expert on politics, the functions of American government, the history of American government, and while there is a lot that I do not know, I definitely feel like an authority to speak on the subject. I did not graduate. Because I didn't feel like spending another $120,000 to go to college. It's a whole different thing, whole different topic. Regardless of that, within the next couple of years, you might see me with a degree, and then anyone that has a lump of criticism now will be silenced. Then, within 6 years, you might see me with a master's degree, multiple master's degree. Who knows what the future holds? All I know, this election is bullshit. Every 4 years or so, the American people get riled up into a frenzy that it's kind of this thing that if you don't like basketball, or you don't like sports in general, so there's like a few categories in life that people get kind of riled up into. One major thing is finances and economics. So a lot of people do not have the finances or the economic means to really participate in this project called America. It's just a reality. Even though a lot of people in this country are the top earning percentile on the entire planet, making $30,000 a year in America is quite honestly worth way more than any American citizen would ever be able to realize. But yet still Americans complain that there's not enough money and there's not enough going around, and we need to redistribute the wealth. While that may or may not be true, it's not. That's just their thing, finances and economics. They're obsessed with it, they read the books on it. Just like other people read Harry Potter, these guys are reading Poor Charlie's Almanac, Next thing would be sports, athletics. And while some athletes do gain the economic means, I'm not talking about athletes. I'm talking specifically about interest groups. I'm talking specifically about the things that get people riled up. Sports is a major thing. Just like when the stock market crashes or there's a fluctuation in a certain company and the prices go up, prices goes down, people go, oh my God, it's incredible. Or, oh my God, that same kind of bull bear market mentality applies to sport teams. That you have some people that are loyal to a team that hasn't won the big one in decades, probably, quite honestly. Because there are going to be two teams that go. So every single year, there's only two teams that win. So you have people that are definitely loyal, very energetic, may not miss a game, may not win a game the entire season. That's its own kind of psychological malfunction that it's almost equivalent to a sense of insanity or stupidity, quite honestly. I have a friend, really intelligent guy, might be crazy. Huge Browns fan. Huge Browns fan. Don't know the last time that the Cleveland Browns won a Super Bowl. I don't even think that he was alive. Huge Cleveland Browns fan. Can he explain it? No. Does he go to every single Cleveland Brown game? No, so he's not stupid. He might be crazy. It's a joke. But this election is very much of the same kind of caliber. So some people got riled up with the COVID-19 thing. Made a documentary about it. So if you want to watch it, message me below, send me your email, and I will share the documentary with you, and you can see for yourself what is going on and that they have found a cure for COVID-19. Whether or not they will release the cure in favor of the vaccine, I'm not quite sure. But that's a whole different thing for a whole different day, whole different topic. Biden and Trump. So I'm not quite sure how Joe Biden became the presidential nominee. The DNC works in a very, very strange way to me, that they don't propose or put forth the best candidate ever. They just kind of put forth who I guess has the most tenure, who I guess earned it more. But Joe Biden most certainly was not the strongest candidate out of all the people saying that. My vote might have been for Buttigieg. Definitely Bernie Sanders would have been a great shakeup. Bernie Sanders would quite honestly be a much better vice president or attorney general, something of that nature, but he would not make a very good president, simply because the same kind of backlash and pushback that you had with Obama, you're going to have the exact same thing with Bernie Sanders, unless Bernie Sanders grows the biggest set of balls in the world, pulls an FDR, and just holds Congress in session for about a whole year, a full 100 to 365 days, which he may not have the stamina for. So this election is between the incumbent Donald Trump, and honestly, I just, like, it's very hard to say because there's so much media manipulation. There's so many just outright lies about Donald Trump and about Donald Trump being a liar, or him being an idiot or something of that nature. And I just want to talk about that for a second. That the amount of hatred that has just bubbled up over for Donald Trump is unlike anything I've seen in my entire lifetime. I've honestly never seen so many people unanimously hate one man as much as this country seems to hate Donald Trump. And on the other side, I've never seen so much blind idolatry and support for someone as people do for Donald Trump. It's like he's the most polarizing figure within American politics. Within the entire history of American politics, we've never had a president like Donald Trump before. And I wish that more people would be able to appreciate that and be able to be motivated and be galvanized by the fact that somebody who is not one of the usual Washington bigwig, it was really just like the same thought process, same exact topic of Donald Trump, but about Biden. You have to understand, like, these people are like almost bred, not born, but like nurtured to become politicians. The way that they speak, the way that they hold themselves, their political correctness, the ensuring to enforce the interests of their lobbyists, their fundraising, their campaigning. They're not normal people. So to keep trusting a system of sycophants and just straight up psychopaths, it doesn't make any real sense, because the true leaders in Washington are quite honestly psychopaths. They're honestly people who are no longer connected to the average American society. If earning $30,000 a year is the top 1 percentile, these people make about $170,000 to over $200,000 a year for being in the Senate and for being in the House. You know, that doesn't even go into what your governors are making or what your mayors are making or your city councilmen are making. These people get paid by you to destroy your life. So they're not funded by the American people. Government is no longer controlled, I would say, since William McKinley, it's no longer controlled by morality. It's no longer controlled by ethics. It's no longer controlled by belief system. It's controlled entirely by finance. It's controlled entirely by whoever is promoting the most, pushing for some. It's the best equation that I have for that would be kind of the music industry, that you have a name like Joe Biden come up, who is kind of like useless. You know, he's really just not. He's a very weak candidate if Democrats can be very honest about themselves. He does not have any strong beliefs. He's a rapist. He's a pedophile. You could not have a worse person in place to propose fixing America, but just like when Chief Keef came out, or NF comes out, or Lizzo comes out, if you're honest with yourself, you had never heard of Lizzo before. You had never heard of even Aubrey Graham. When Aubrey Graham entered the music industry, I'm going to use his real name just to prove how few people actually know who he is as a person. Who cared? But look at that. You see who Aubrey Graham surrounds himself with. You see the record label that he signs to, and then his music is everywhere. That doesn't just come from talent. It really doesn't, sadly. It comes from a lot of marketing dollars. Not completely marketing dollars. There's a lot of grind involved. There's a lot of networking involved. There's a lot of behind-the-scene things that happen in that function for these musicians to get to a higher state in what they're doing, or to even get pushed like they're being pushed. You know, you might have two people signed under the exact same label who don't get the same shine because one rapper, or one musician rather, goes to the events, goes to the mixers, goes to the parties, not because his agent told him to, but to get to know these people making these decisions, to get to know the people that know the people making decisions. So when you have a positive influence and a positive aspect with these people that make decisions, that are controlling who's on the radio, not on the radio, who's controlling who gets spoken about on Fox News or CNBC or CNN, what are you going to do? Quite honestly, you would have to rework your entire understanding of life and your entire practice of life to get into a lot of these circles at times, but then to flourish within those circles. Someone like me would not flourish within those circles of politics. How do I know that? Because I ran for politics. I've been a senator at large. I've worked for student government. And if student government is a microcosm of the overall issues of American society, I've gotten to see firsthand how hard and how difficult it is to fix any issue, period, no matter what the issue is. When you're dealing with a government is supposed to be representative of the people, and most people, just like it is representative, are completely lost, are completely absorbed within just a state of self-sustenance and continuing to survive and thrive and live with as much meaning and as much fulfillment and as much happiness and joy until they die. So many of these politicians are really just humans. They're not smarter than you. They are not more capable than you are. They do not know more things than you do, but you're entrusting them. Someone just like you, who you probably can't even trust to tip your mailman, who didn't even know that you should be tipping your mail people, who probably don't even tip your waiters and waitresses above $4 because you just can't bring yourself to understand how fucked up the economy is and how fucked up our labor market is, that you have people living their entire lives serving people out of the good graces that maybe they'll get a $5 or $10 tip, or that one person that leaves $100 tip for this person to still have to go home and pay rent. It's insanity at a certain point, is it not? It's crazy. But people will only call you crazy until you're proven right. With Donald Trump and Joe Biden, there really is not a clear, for the last election, because the last election was kind of my tipping point for just what the fuck are you people doing? You know, the greatest thing that can happen is that 99% of the American people don't vote. Follow me here. If only 1% of the government votes, and only 1% of the populace votes, that means for 99% of people, this person's not your president. That would include the military, that would include the police force, that would include people just getting tired of the way that life is lived in America. But that's when you kind of get into a lot of these issues of what's kind of going on here. is that for certain people, if $30,000 is the top 1% in the entire world and planet, there's a lot of people in America that have no interest in fixing things in this country. And that's why you still have these elections. Have you ever considered and asked yourself, why don't my local representatives, why doesn't my mayor and the person that controls my city, that's the most pertinent thing to your life, is it not? Your city, your town. But your mayor doesn't get on TV. Your mayor doesn't get all these local news broadcasts. You'll get a new mayor and not even know who the mayor is. You can be the mayor of, I was working at someplace in South Orange. I grew up in Maplewood, South Orange, to give you a little bit more background on how I was raised. And the things that I got to saw growing up. So I didn't have to deal so much with racism and things of that nature. I got to deal with one of those pseudo-utopian townships, you know. Again, another topic for another time. But I'm sitting in Soma, doing my job, serving up Mexican food. And this woman comes in, cute little middle-aged woman. And there's a life to her, definitely. She's talking to me, talking to her. And it turns out she's the fucking mayor. Turns out she's the mayor. When I was younger, we had a completely different mayor. Did not know that. I hadn't been in town for quite a long time. So that was my reasoning for me not knowing who the fuck she is. Was that I had not been in South Orange for probably 8 years. Prior to that day, maybe a little less than that, maybe 7 or 6 years. But it's been like almost a decade to half a decade since I've set foot in South Orange, quite honestly. New mayor, had no idea. She didn't have any local radio broadcast. She wasn't being posted everywhere. Why is that? You know, it's weird, isn't it? So maybe your mayor's too local. Maybe your local news stations are lazy. Maybe the local newspapers are trying to stay afloat and trying to stay employed, so they have to report more sensationalized news. Maybe, just maybe, you know, maybe, just maybe. But your governor, that's kind of a big deal. You know, so maybe in your township, you don't have a huge local media, you know, like we did. You know, we have the news records. We have the Town Green, or like the Maplewood Green, something of that nature, which is like an online local Maplewood website. But it's pretty small. So if the writers for that website don't catch wind of what's going on and they don't know anything about the mayoral election, they're not going to post anything about the mayoral election. But your state's pretty big. Most states genuinely have a specified branch of news, you know. Most states certainly do have even a moderate coverage of who the governor's going to be, you know. But it's still not nearly as big or as hyped up or as marketed as the presidential election. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe. Because your governor ultimately is only going to take care of their state. So the people in your state are responsible for knowing what's going on. Maybe. I'm not saying I believe that, but let's just leave it on the table for this so we can move forward. But your senators? Is there a debate for the senators? No. There's not. There's not even really news coverage about the senators. These are the people that make our laws. These are the people that honestly control the entire function of American government. They create the laws, they create the policies, they represent the people directly from the state level. They're supposed to be the true representatives of America. When you hear about the creation of America in 1776, you don't hear about the president, you know? You hear about the Continental Congress, don't you? The Second Continental Congress. You know, the first one didn't work out. But isn't that a little weird? Just a little bit? Just a smidgen? You know, people like to call me crazy, but I feel like the people that make your laws are a little bit more important than your general. But Americans have chosen a God King. They haven't chosen to fully observe their government. Most Americans don't know how their government works. Even if they take a civics class, they don't learn how the government works. They get brainwashed. They get pre-programmed. They get a basic runaround so that you can go out there and vote for your town's team. It's like when someone's introducing you to football, and when people introduce you to football, they don't explain the rules of football to you. They don't explain the history of football to you. They don't tell you how football came to be. They don't tell you why they play football. They don't explain anything about football. What do? They tell you who to root for. And then whatever that team does is golden to you. Whatever call on the play is made pisses you off. Whatever negative thing happens to your team, you're upset about. And whatever happens to the other team, yeah. That's fucked up, isn't it? That's insane. That's crazy. Because it's not football. It's reality. It's life on planet Earth. It's life in America. And ultimately, the choice that you're making is so narrow. Like, can you imagine? We have more than 3 parties in America as well. Did you know that? There's about 50 political parties in America. There might be 2 major political parties, but the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, once again, have been dying for a very long time since they killed William McKinley. JFK was not the first president that they murdered. Abraham Lincoln was not the last president that they murdered, sadly. Who is they? We'll never tell. Because you'll never know. Because you're too distracted, you know? Ultimately, at the end of the day, who cares who the president is? People that don't know any better. People that honestly do not understand where the power in this country is held. You don't think there's a reason why Nancy Pelosi isn't putting in her hat for the race? She doesn't want to be the president. She wants to be the Speaker of the House. You know? Ask yourself that. Like, seriously, consider that. If politics and government are so important, let's not be pessimistic. Let's not be overly optimistic. Let's just be 100% salutative. I love salutative. You know, let's just figure this out and solve the problem. If government and politics are so important, why doesn't every stage of government get the same amount of attention? Why is it that the people that are in the Senate and the people that are in the House of Representatives are almost hushed in there? But the person who becomes president, one guy, you have 340 million Americans, maybe even more than that, maybe even more than that at this point in time. 340 million Americans, and one guy is supposed to be. That's not how our government was set up. We were purposely created in the way that we were, that each state gets a certain amount of representatives based on the size of that state. Because one guy could never be responsible for every single state. Every single state within America is its own country. Let's just be 100% real and 100% honest with that. Every single state within America, we're one of the few countries on planet Earth that has states, that even cause their individual countries' states to maintain its power, to maintain its control as a unified political, military, economic power. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, who really cares? The important part is that your governor is far more pertinent and deserves far more attention in your life than your president will ever in your lifetime garner. Because there are rules and acts within America that your state government can create laws and create things that affect your life well before the president or the Congress ever could. But then the second most pertinent thing in your life, which you need to really, really revamp your entire focus of the world on, is your congressmen, your congresspeople. The Congress is the most powerful source of history, of control, and of manipulation on the planet. It's not the president, it's the Congress. But for the past 20, almost 30 years of my life, a few more years, by the next election I'll be 30, and I hope to just never deal with this or move to a different country or just move to a remote place on the planet where I won't be